That's okay.
I know. She just... How's everybody doing today in chat? Elyse and I are going to make some Shou Puer, which is a tea that I have told everybody that I hate.
That's what I thought. It'd be good for us just to do a little focus on it for today's episode. Because, yeah, you said you don't like it. And I'm positive you're going to like this one. And I figured I'd leave it up to you to make your own side-by-side for it. Or your, comparative for it.
Yeah.
Because I could have sent you another kind of hate cha fermented tea similar to this, made at a different origin, but it is also quite delightful to drink. But there's a lot of them that aren't so delightful to drink, and that's kind of a good comparison to do.
Say I'll save what I'm drinking for when we start recording, but I'm always open to trying new things. So I'm curious to see how this goes. It smells nice, but
It smells like
very
dirt.
curious.
Dirt is nice.
Afan has picked up a bottle of some tawny port at the store today, and he says he's doing all right.
Oh, good.
Afan actually I recently has been experimenting with Gong Fu Cha.
Good.
I sent him some teas, and he had a Moonlight White Dragon Ball, and I think he had some Silver Needles today, and he said he's been enjoying them. So
Awesome. Good.
yeah.
Another one bites the dust. We're gonna have all of the sheeple drinking the tea. It'll be great.
The sheeple.
I'm just kidding. No, you're not a sheep. If you're doing Gung Fu Cha, you're definitely not a sheep.
No, I recently added a sub perk that if you've been subbed long enough, like at certain points, like I'll send you tea.
Oh, good.
So yeah, as a way of like, here, like try this tea now.
It's a good way to do it. I'm doing that on the other app that I'm broadcasting to. There is kind of like a sub-like function. It's completely different, but when people spend time and give gifts, you get different recognition on the channel. And so I've decided it rotates every month. It like renews. So every month you have to like build up your points again to become what's called a core fan. So I'll be sending tea to all the core fans. I haven't calculated if it's like financially wise to do that, because like on Twitch you get your subs, and if they sub long enough, then that definitely financially supports doing something like that, because even shipping alone is money, especially whenever it's like a large group of people you need to send tea to.
Say I haven't figured out if it's financially worthwhile for me yet. 2 of the teas I can buy from a shop in town here for my blend, so at least there's that.
Yeah.
The blend is part of that package, but at least there's that.
You should look for some type of wholesale arrangement.
True. Maybe, yeah. That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah. I know, I give wholesale accounts to people doing like what you're doing. Like if you're sharing it, like it's not just for your own personal consumption, definitely worthwhile to get tea in bulk to someone like you, because you're actually going to share it and get it out.
Yeah.
To the peeps.
Say if the trend grows, we may talk about that.
Woohoo! Good. I'm trying to turn this entire country into tea dealers. It's great.
Yes. All right. Do you want to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
I should probably heat my water, shouldn't I?
Yeah, my water's heating. We can go for it. I can intro the show if you need.
Go for it if you want.
Cool. Welcome everybody to the First Steep, a collaborative live broadcast by me, Elyse Peterson, and Colin of Vodka Studio. Today we are going to be doing a deep dive into the category of tea known as Shou Puer, featuring a small batch Shou Puer by a small tea grower, tea master in Nanoshan in Yunnan, China. This is called small batch shou, and we will learn why that word small batch is so important for this tea and actually for the entire category of tea, frankly, Colin. What do you know about Shou Puer?
So my understanding has a lot to do with the kind of. So Shou Puer is a confusing term, I know, because Shou Puer used to mean something different than what it means now. In that Shou Puer, I know, used to refer to just aged, like tea that was aged over, like puer tea that was like aged over a certain amount. Is that accurate, or?
It's possible. I don't know about that story, but I've heard lots of different stories that even like there's a difference between shou and shu.
Yeah, and that's
so that's all confusing, and I don't know if we want to be confusing people today. So I think we can stick with the basic.
With the modern,
Yeah, but you're correct. Like Shou Puer, which we have done on this podcast before, is unfermented, but it's meant to be fermented over time. So maybe 10, 20 years, it will completely change the tea from a greener tea to a, darker aged tea or heicha. Heicha is, but Shou Puer was developed mostly in like the 1970s as like a more kind of commodified version of that aged puer.
And, my understanding has to do with it. There was like a demand in Hong Kong for aged puer, and there just wasn't enough supply, and so they kind of developed this process, right?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard that specific story, but I believe it. That seems true as well. I mean, there was a demand. I mean, basically, there was a demand for commodities.
Sure.
And that was like when China was going through its big boom, its transition from communist to its modern day capitalist, system it's got going on now. A lot of that advancement that China made is by the commodification of their goods and of their processes. And tea definitely got hit hard with that one. So essentially they were able to exponentially grow the market of dark puers by reducing that needed time for fermentation from 10 or 20 years down to just a few months.
And I know that even then, though, there's like still like a lot of aging potential for like the Shou Puer, because even though it's like simulating that longer age time with the processing and the wet piling, which I'm sure we'll talk about, there's even still market for like aged even further past that. Like I've seen samples of like mid 90s Shou Puer, and I'm just, oh my god, I can't even imagine how like muddy that is.
Yeah. And something else to it is true. You could continue to age a tea. You can age any tea, and it's going to change. Even a white tea, or I mean, even a matcha tea, or tencha, which is the raw form of matcha. When that ages over time, it does improve in time. So the same thing will happen with Shou Puer, but with the Shou Puer, the reason why I find it very important to define it as being the commodification of puer tea is that commodities rely on quantity. They rely on scale. Like the literal process that the tea goes through requires mass in order to generate the temperatures to make that fermentation process begin. It's essentially composting. The tea gets composted. And we're talking like 3 tons per batch. So you need lots of mass. And when you're dealing with lots of mass, then you start dealing in lower prices. The farmers getting lower prices. When farmers start getting lower prices, the care for quality, the care for goodness, authenticity is lost as well.
Sure.
And so that's why a lot of Shou Puer, first and foremost, is not made with the highest quality raw material. The good stuff is better sent to where it's going to be higher valued.
Right.
So, more of the commodity-minded leaf is going there. So that's the first thing. The raw material is probably, hugely treated with agricultural chemicals. And then in the process itself, we have fermentation process rely upon biology. microbiology. And
say it's a live organism,
yeah.
you know.
And so, you know, anybody who's ever done any at-home brewing, anything like that, knows how important sanitation is for proper processing. Like, even one little off germ in your bottle that you're brewing in can mess up the entire flora and completely mess up the final product. And that happens in these tea processing facilities, which have a very different sanitation standard than we have. You know, as far as like cigarette smoking and barefoot and, you know, just these large spaces that don't really like generate the money to support, you know, an ISO certified sanitation facility.
Sure.
And so, you know, people say that they've tried Shou Puer, and they've found it to be very fishy.
Yeah, fishy is a thing that I hear a lot.
And that's why. That's the wrong fermentation going on. The wrong little buggies are in there doing their work and causing the off aromas, the off flavors. And then also competing with resources for the good buggies that are actually doing the good fermentation on it. So for the
Buggies. It's a technical term.
The little buggies, yeah. Because it's both. It encompasses a lot of different organisms. It's not just yeast. I believe that there are bacteria as well that are, you know, beneficial part of that ecosystem. Kind of like how, you know, kombucha works with the SCOBY. But I just, like, for the most part, that's why I don't have a comparative for this tea. Because I don't touch that stuff. Like, for me, it's not worth the value. And for the most part, here in the U.S. market, the trailblazers that have introduced Chinese tea and introduced Puer tea into the U.S. market have heavily focused on educating the market on these fermented teas, and a lot of that does have to do with the commodification, right? Because those teas are more readily available, they are more affordable, they are less risky to order and export to the U.S. and do business with them in the U.S. And so a lot of people have been exposed to this type of tea through, you know, some sus sources.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to have this tea. We started distributing this tea back in 2015, and it's been really popular. And it's called Small Batch. And should we jump into tasting, and I can tell the story while we do the brewing and the tasting?
Well, we're getting brewing here. I do have a comparative, and
Good.
I picked this one specifically because we have this is a small batch puer. So I have a sample of the Yunnan sourcing brand Last Laugh Right Puer cake from 2019. Okay. So basically what I'm doing is trying to compare just a more mass-produced Shou Puer with this smaller batch.
Good
and not
idea.
mass-produced in the same fashion as like if it were from like Shaguan or something like that, but still.
Yeah.
So this is I'm showing mine on my screen here, but this is my little chunk of Shou Puer. I'm just gonna warm everything up real fast, and then I'll be ready to taste.
Sweet.
Ooh, the dried leaf on the Nanoshan small batch, the one that you sent me.
Okay.
Since I'm struggling, apparently my brain is not making connections.
Yeah.
It's got this like kind of like caramel aroma around that kind of almost dirt kind of scent to it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I get that caramel. It is quite sweet. It's like sweet dirt. I mean, people always ask that. They're like, "What? Dirt smells good? When did dirt smell good?"
Well, it's I feel like it's less dirt and more just earth, right? Like
Yeah.
it's this kind of like mineral kind of quality. It's this almost I don't know. It's not just like dirt, you know? It's not just boring dirt. Like there's richness to it.
It's not boring dirt. But yeah, dirt, even boring dirt. I mean, what is boring? Like for me,
Yeah.
boring is like monocultured, nutrient deprived, water deprived. But what we're talking about here is like really hardy, nutritious, earthy soil.
Say that the wet leaf there after I rinse is like the caramel kind of like turns into like a caramel chocolate type thing. It's like a little candy.
You don't need to rinse this tea, by the way, but
Do I not? Then I will
it's
not.
clean. It's clean.
Then I will
I don't know
not.
about that other one.
Oh, I'm definitely rinsing the other one. 100%. There was no question about it. I'm 100% rinsing.
Yeah, this is a small batch. So I guess that's a good segue. I can start telling
Yeah.
the difference of small batch versus normal processing. So, as I was saying, this was a modern advancement in tea processing technology developed in about the 1970s. Now, remember not the Industrial Revolution. That's already long past, but the Cultural Revolution. But it's all connected to the industrial, like the same ethos of like efficiency and whatever.
Sure.
But the Cultural Revolution was a very dark time in China's history and posed a big challenge to the tea culture of China, which is the longest running history of the whole world. But a lot of the business, the craftsmanship, it was all sacrificed during the Cultural Revolution for the sake of the state. And so, right, this is communist time, so everything gained ownership through the state was run by the state, and that included all tea production. So it was illegal for a tea farmer to produce their own tea and sell it into the market. So any farmer, even if they were doing artisanal craft, had to abandon that for the sake of the state. And the state did things very differently. They ran everything very differently. And so in Yunnan, the Menghai tea factory, which is very close to Nanshan, where this tea comes from, that was the main tea factory that did develop the expedited fermentation process for tea. And yeah, they were just turning out large quantities for the growing international market, which it's very likely that Hong Kong played a big role in that. I don't doubt that.
Yeah. That's just something I read somewhere. I don't.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. I mean, when it comes to the aged puers, it's all Hong Kong and Taipei anyway that has really driven that market. So Menghai tea factories, where all this was going down, even like all of the old trees that we like revere and talk about now with all the deep roots that we get all excited about as tea nerds, back in those days in like the 1970s, the 1980s, those trees were completely valueless. Like if you were to harvest the leaf from those trees and then harvest the leaf from some really young, clonal trees, when you would take the leaf to the factory, to the Menghai tea factory, the government-run tea factory, to be sold, you would get the same price for it. And it was like pennies. It was like nothing. The tea farmers were very poor. And so those old trees lost their value. And that was when you got to the point of time where a lot of them were getting cut down. Because they were having... Yes, Colin, this is a very serious thing that is still happening to this day, actually. Because there are some communities that their tea has not become marketable yet. Like in Yunnan. Xishanbana, all the mountains of Xishanbana, which is where Nanshan is, like, those farmers are all fine. Like, the market knows about them. They are no longer selling their leaf for pennies to the Menghai tea factory. Like, they're able to be their own tea maker and their own tea master and do their own business and get paid well for it. But like in Guizhou, for instance, that's where a lot of the modern day commodity teas are coming from. They also have ancient tea trees there, but the farmers are not paid well for them. Like, the market does not know about them and appreciate them. They just know them for the cheap tea. And so a lot of the farmers are cutting down those trees because they have more value as like burning wood than they do as a tea tree. So just a little side note about how sad that is.
That is really sad. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a sad reality. But the tea maker from this family, Shou Puer, he was working at the Monghai Tea Factory with his father. He was a engineer. Him and his father were an engineer in the fermentation piling area.
Mm-hmm.
And so when this family in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when the tea market started, when all the millionaires started coming up, and then they found tea to be like this niche luxury product that could be an investment for them. That's really what drove the Yunnan tea industry to become like where it is now. And that encouraged farmers to start, growing their own tea, making their own tea, seeking out more valued leaves, such as the older trees or the purple tree or whatever. But he couldn't, so he left the Monghai Tea Factory and started making tea himself, but he couldn't make the Shou Puer, because it's a different process.
Right.
Requires
There's a lot more,
like 3 tons of leaf to do it, and so he was small scale. But it took him 7 years of, engineering and figuring it out, and he came up with this, and he was one of the first producers. It's now a trend. Across several different mountains, you will find some tea factories and tea makers that have figured it out, but it's very trade secret type of a thing. Like, no one's going around talking about how they do it.
Right. Because that makes sense. And so is that what we're talking about when we talk about small batch? It's not these 3 tons.
Yep. It's not 3 tons. It's just, in this case, I think it's like 27 kilos is like the smallest batch you'll make.
Shit.
Compared to 3 tons.
This is clean.
Duh.
and I don't mean, okay, hang on. Let me clear.
sorry, disrespect.
No. You're right. You're right. No, you're right. I walked into that one. I just mean that, like, this is like the most crisp Shou Puer I think I've ever encountered, and this is extremely different from anything else in that it's not. One of the reasons why I don't like Shou Puer usually is I feel like it's just such a heavy tea. The energy might be there, the good chi might be there, I guess, but it's just such a heavy tea. This is not at all.
No fishiness, not one bit.
Mm-mm. And I mean, I've had the last laugh cake before, and there's no fishiness in that either, but it's still this like dense, heavy tea. But like this one is almost refreshing. It makes me want to go back for more.
Yeah. I know I'm not trying to break the fourth wall or whatever we call it, but I just got to share this one. Armadillo says, 1 small steep for man, 1 giant steep for mankind. That's this tea. I think that's, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
That is a big deal.
To develop this. And now there are other tea producers. I've met other tea farmers that told me that there are factories they can send their tea to. Like, they don't know how to do it themselves, but there's factories in their area where they can do this small batch piling process. It doesn't seem like rocket science to me, but I guess there is. And so the farmer, Shou Puer, he's never even shown us this process because, he worked too hard. But he's not the only one. Yeah. It's good,
I'm just blown away by that. There's a tea that it reminds me of. I'm trying to come up with what it is. There's something that it makes me think of another tea that I've tried. But no, it's just it reminds me almost of like brownies, like fresh baked brownies, I guess, almost, with a little bit of caramel, just a little bit.
It gives me an idea. I should come up with a brownie recipe with this tea.
You could do it.
Yeah,
you could definitely do it.
Be easy.
So, you're talking about like other producers doing small batch, and what's interesting is that I until you sent me this and I looked this specific one up, there was only one other Western tea seller, you know, really just he that was selling small batch Shou Puer.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody that I know, like through like online tea communities and stuff, you know, talks about it as if it's like this super goofy, like extra thing. Like, of course, this guy's doing small batch Shou Puer, you know, and it's super interesting, I guess, that this is actually more of a norm than one would let on. And I think it speaks very much again to kind of how disconnected even those of us that like really try and work on like how they source their teas and like, you know, really kind of drink their teas in a much more intimate fashion than just, you know, bag pot, bag cup, whatever. But just how disconnected we are, because I didn't know that. And it's kind of fascinating to me that each farm is kind of coming up with their own method as well. I guess this is just a much more prominent thing than I originally understood. And by the way, this blows the other one out of the water.
It may be not as prominent. It's definitely in the Western market not as prominent, and even in China it's not as prominent, because it's like if someone's going to source directly from the grower, mm-hmm. more than likely they're going to want to age it themselves. They're going to want to be a part of that aging process. But you know, there is some demand for clean Shou Puer. But yeah, it's more common. Like whenever I first started working with this grower with this tea, I thought it was like the biggest thing in the world, and he made it out to be that way as well. But since spending more time in China, I've come to learn that there are other growers. It is a very common thing, and so I think it may be something that we'll be seeing a lot more in the U.S. because like clean tea is something, especially like newer business owners that are just getting into selling tea, into setting up a tea shop or something. They're going to prioritize a clean source versus you know, a fishy source. You'd hope, but you know, like that's what I specialize in doing. I specialize in working with startups and tea enthusiasts that are just getting into it, and yeah, that tends to be a priority for a lot of them, especially if they're starting from ground zero. Now, if they have a tea shop that's been in business for 10 years, that has a full stock of all the flavored teas and whatever else, it is really hard to convince them to change their source. But if they're starting from ground zero, the majority of small business owners are wanting to do things transparency. They're wanting to do things clean. They're wanting to know all the distribution of monies. So much to a point that it's almost detrimental to my business because, you know, the internet has empowered us so much that we almost assume that everything should be like efficient. Like, you know, a lot of these small business owners that are expecting to start out slow are also expecting to like do their own importing, to, you know, which is doable. It's just not efficient. You know, it doesn't start becoming efficient until you have economies of scale and those types of things. And so yeah, but I'm just telling this story because it is a priority for new business owners to want to have transparency, almost so much so that they don't even want to work with someone like me. They want to be direct to the source,
which is reasonable. I can understand that, but I also know that like with like cost of shipping, in terms of like weight and amount and stuff, you know, you're always going to have a cheaper product from the larger seller, no matter what. And I'm sure that kind of plays into it a little bit as well. And just in the fact that like you have sourced this tea, so it's here, you know, I mean, I think that's probably huge, just because something that I know that you kind of talk about a lot in terms of your business is that there's kind of this issue of it's difficult for these smaller farmers to get their tea to Western markets where they could sell, to larger markets where they could sell outside of, you know, their own regions and stuff. And that's probably even more so difficult in this case here of Shou Puer than in many other places, I guess, just because of how severely established Munghai and Shaguan factories are. I mean, they're like legendary in a way. In whether that's good or bad, is neither here nor there. But they have the power to do this, and so they're always going to. It's like Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
But
Friggin' Walmart.
God damn it, Walmart.
Hey, Colin, I think we've gotten a good idea here from a Reddit viewer on
Sure.
a new benchmark for our efforts, our social media tea efforts that we've got going on here.
Sure.
So Palmetto mentioned Kit Boga. Kit Boga? Do you not know Kit Boga?
No.
Kit Boga is a Twitch streamer, also a YouTuber that does live tech scamming pranks.
Oh, that guy.
That guy. Yeah. So I know this about him, and the idea had passed my head, but now it's really passing my head. He starts out every stream drinking a cup of tea. He's always drinking tea, but it's probably a tea bag or something. So I think it'd be cool to make it a goal to get some tea to Kit Boga.
Oh, that would be fun.
Tea. Yeah, maybe we can give him some leads of calling tea suppliers in Asia and scamming them, prank calling them. Not scamming them, but getting them to admit the dark secrets of their tea.
That would be funny. That would be really fun.
Yeah, we got to get more influencers. Some big names are getting into tea. I think Brad Pitt, he announced that he's got some RTD sparkling tea beverage that he's invested in.
Every celebrity has some alcohol or other thing that they do. I cannot tell you at work how often we get pitched Bon Jovi's rosé or Danica Patrick's rosé or all these and I'm like, why does everybody have a rosé?
Rosé all day. That's what they say.
That is the name of a rosé as well that we used to carry. I'm on my second steep here, this the Nano Shun, and it's much. I don't know. The body's opening up a lot. I got a much darker liquor out of it for barely steeping it any more time. But is there any part of the processing that you can tell us about? Because since it's kind of a secret, what can you tell us?
So composting. I think a lot of people have done composting at home, and so I think that's a good reference to sharing the process for this type of tea. So fermentation is a biological, so it's either going to be the yeast or the bacteria that's feeding off of and changing the chemistry of the tea. Those processes, just like when you leave your food out of the refrigerator, it's going to spoil faster than when you put it into the refrigerator. So
Sure,
temperature is one of those things that can affect the rate at which these reactions happen. Of course, if you heat it too hot, then you can denature, the organisms and kill them.
Yeah, now we've got other issues.
Yeah. But, it's they actually like the warmth. So just like with composting, your goal is to get all of your green waste to pile so it creates the warmth, which will accelerate that rate. But you also need to turn it, right? Because you want even processing, because the stuff that's on the outside of the pile is going to be at a lower temperature than the stuff at the center of the pile. So you have to constantly be rotating it, just like with compost. But it's the exact same thing. I mean, the processes are different, obviously, but the concept of how temperature affects the rate at which organisms do their processes makes a difference. And it's a really fast difference. It's the difference between,
Right.
10 years and 2 months. It's a big difference.
So I've seen estimates that depending on how the processing is done, you could technically simulate up to like 40, 50 years of aging. But I mean, again, I'm not an expert, so I have no idea. But if I'm to understand correctly, like that humidity is created by the leaf then?
Yeah, so there warmth and moistness. So when you keep the leaf heaped like that, it's going to keep the moisture in. So yes, humidity will be higher, and temperature is higher as well.
Yeah, something that I kind of wanted to return back to as well. That you had mentioned earlier was about quality and cost.
Mm-hmm.
Because something that's interesting, I feel, is I think a lot of people, I think is a misconception between Shou and Shou Puer, is that if you were to take the same raw leaf, the same raw Mao Cha, and process Shou Puer and Shou Puer out of it, the Shou Puer would technically cost more, would it not? Considering the fact that there's much more labor involved in the production of it. And so it's very strange that this like kind of misconception almost that Shou Puer is cheaper than Shou Puer kind of exists, because again we kind of get back into where the value comes from, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess too. And I can understand, that you prefer something that's more naturally aged. Like you don't like the taste of like if you get something that tastes like a pile, like that's not super attractive to some people. Like I can understand that.
Yeah.
But and so I can understand how that like distinction is created, but it seems very strange, because I could definitely see like this small batch Shou Puer that you've provided here, like probably retailing at a similar price to a fairly higher quality Shou Puer, just because of it is a good quality Shou Puer.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah, and it is coming from high quality leaf.
Right, and that's what I was trying to say.
When you don't need 3 tons of leaf, and that's 3 tons of finished tea. If you don't need that much tea, then you can focus, on just specific trees or, older trees. These certainly aren't gushu. This is not gushu. They would never use gushu for this type of tea, but, they could use dashu. These are probably like 60 to 80-year-old trees that the tea is coming from, which is, pretty good quality.
Right. I guess my main question then on that regard is that, like, if this is the higher quality, and because this is something that I've kind of been thinking about a lot lately, and kind of like trying to work through, is just that if this is this higher quality, and like when you're buying from those larger sellers, I guess I'm always curious, like what's the best way to go about sourcing that? Because responsible sourcing is, I know, something that you're very big on, with the transparent sourcing, and it's something that, like, through kind of getting to know you has become something that I do consider a lot when I'm looking for my teas. But I don't know, if it weren't for having met you, having known about your story, if I'd have ever come across anything like this on my own. And I guess that's something that's difficult too, is accessibility of this, which is the Walmart issue again, because the accessibility is kept down.
Yeah. Well, there's like 20 or so different tea shops in the U.S. that are sourcing this tea through Tealet. So I know it's somewhat
Somebody's
accessible.
got it.
Somebody's got it somewhere. But yeah, you're right. These things don't really come that accessible because, the wholesalers and the large scale, brokers, it's much easier for them to be doing this business if they're working with lower price, materials.
Right.
So that's why, a lot of the factory Shou Puers are the main ones that make their way here. And there's even been campaigns to discourage people from drinking Shou Puer because it's too wild. Like, the energy is too wild. It needs to age in order for it to be digestible. And, a lot of those campaigns were created just to, popularize darker, deeper fermented tea, kind of demonizing the green stuff, which is kind of silly.
I think I remember you talking about that last time, or at least when we had the sticky rice shung.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders if like what the cause for that is, what the, you know, and I'm just, how does that come about? You know, why do people do that? And I mean, you know, there's the marketing aspect of it, but I guess is there just too much Shou Puer, or are we just trying to like save the Shou Puer for other people, not the masses? I don't know, but yeah,
Well,
it's yeah. Sorry.
it's a challenge because it's like, when you're selling a product, you want to make sure that all your marketing is in alignment with your product being the best,
Sure.
right? So I think that that's why that happened. You know,
Yeah.
when like if you really were learning from a tea master, if you're really learning tea from like a high level tea artist that's really an expert, more than likely like they're going to tell you that Shang tea is better than you know, the most Shou Puer that's available on the market. And so yeah, you want to make, if you're selling Shou Puer, only Shou Puer, you want to make sure that your customers aren't, you know, steered in the wrong direction. So I mean, the example of this is the music festival scenes. We've
Sure.
talked about this, how you notice some, you know, overlapping between those communities. Yeah, there are a lot of tea servers at music festivals, and a lot of the very early servers, the people that were doing it very early on, their teachers were some of these folks that were importing tea, mostly Shou Puer, cakes of large factory Shou Puer. And the tea servers, as well as the people that have sat down with the tea servers and been introduced to tea, were all like they're kind of new age, you know, that's kind of the culture there. They were all introduced to Shou Puer as, or Puer in general. So it's not even a difference between Shou Puer or Puer. Like they're just taught Puer, and that it should be a medicine, and that it's only truly going to be medicinal for you if it's thick and dark, and if you feel it in your core. Which, you know, the energetics of this tea, we certainly could talk about that. And for the most part, most dark teas are going to have like a really strong central deep chi to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're taught. They're taught that that's how you decipher value in puer. If it's not dark, it's not good. They don't even know the difference between sheng and shou. That was my experience of sitting with tea with some of these folks, because I'd be pouring like a really good quality like young gushu sheng, and they say, oh no, puer is my medicine. I only drink, you know, if it's dark and if it has like a deep richness in my belly. And I'm like, well, you're missing out on a lot. And then they
Really?
yeah, you're missing out on a lot. You know, and it was all the same story of like, oh, well, my tea master taught me this, and this is where I learned it. And it's like,
Always, yeah. I something that something that I've attempted to incorporate into my mindset of life is that your teachers are lovely people, but at the end of the day, you have to do some of your own learning. And I feel like some of the most like problematic and toxic language and knowledge comes from single sources, right? And trusting that single source as the only source. And I just find that to be another like good example of that, just because tea is just such a wide, vast ranged idea, plant, thing, whatever. And I mean, my experience with one tea could be completely different than yours. And so it's strange to me when people like shoehorn themselves into that kind of like, this person says this and that is that type of ideal. So I don't know. This makes me think about that a little bit. Bitcoin's getting real interested.
yeah, Bitcoin's like, I want to go into your lab. That's all I want to do. That, you know, that's just such a common issue in tea, not just with Chinese tea, but even, you know, kind of the gatekeeping that happens. And it's almost like if you get into the business of tea, there's this culture of like, that's what builds your brand. Your brand needs to be some type of gatekeeping service. Yeah.
Yeah. It's recently I've been extending that as well to sommeliers and wine.
Yeah.
There was a time where I thought I might want to pursue a sommelier certification. At this point, I'm like, nah, sommeliership is just gatekeeping.
That's funny. That's funny.
Oh, is that so, Bitcoin?
Yeah, Bitcoin. What are you thinking about? I don't know. He's like, maybe he's complaining about this whole gatekeeping thing. He was like, I'll
Maybe.
gatekeep all of the treats. I'll gatekeep all the dog culture.
He parks himself in your lap.
Well, don't you have a cat in your lap too?
Oh, she ran off. She's licking herself. Okay, it's bath time. My bad.
Oh, bath time.
Yes, of course. I don't know. Do you have anything else you wanna like talk about with the tea at all?
Well, you never even drank the other tea.
Oh, I did.
You did. Okay, so why don't we hear, like, in real time, or as real time as possible, your experience of having the two side by side.
So there's something about, like, you talk about wonky energy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that can almost be like extended in this conversation to dirty energy. And
dirty.
when I was
Ooh.
yeah, and not in the fun way. What was interesting is that the last laugh, and it's compressed, so you have to take that into account a little bit. But it felt heavy, right? And I felt like and I feel like that's kind of one of my experiences with Shou Puer, and why I've kind of preferred Shou Puer as a kind of in comparison, is just this one just felt so heavy. And I felt like you got a real good heat seal right there.
I did, yeah. It was empty too.
I just feel like I feel energized from the small batch Shou Puer, and I feel there's like this, I don't know, I've been getting super like hippy dippy goofy with my tea sessions lately. I feel like I have a better picture of, and that's possibly just because I'm talking to somebody who's met the person who made the tea. I feel like I have a better picture of who made my tea with the small batch show, right? And just that I very much felt like I could taste. I didn't taste the production in it, but I could taste that it had that production, I guess, if that makes any sense.
That
but
makes
also
sense.
I'm really, the last laugh compared to, I pulled the last laugh cake because I kind of liked it the last time I had it, and now I've had this one and I'm pissed.
Who made the tea? Yeah, this tea, we're drinking a beautiful Shou Puer made by a tea master in Yunnan, China, Nanoshan, called Li Shu Lin. Li is his last name. A lot of Asian names, the last name comes first, so I know that's confusing. But Li Shu Lin is his name. I just had somebody in chat ask who made the tea.
Oh yeah, no, I very much enjoyed this one, and you're definitely right. And I mean, something that I always try and tell myself is that if I don't like something, one of two things is the case: I either A, just don't like it, or B, I just haven't found the right one yet. And this one is very different from the other Shou Puers I've had. But
you found the right one.
Yeah.
Good for you.
It feels like we're kind of moving into a point. Shall we take the live sign off and just kind of open it up to chat?
Yeah, I've
cool.
already, I told you, I've been breaking the fourth wall all night.
You definitely have been.
Fuck.
I actually need to boil more water anyway if I want to make more tea.
All right.
So I will be right back in half a second.
Who made the tea? In all caps, Devin? Come on. But look, it's magical. This is beautiful tea. This is not very common. See a tea so thick. It's thick. Nice tea. Welcome in. Let me open up Colin's Twitch too, so that way I can answer questions from, because we're streaming this across a couple different channels. A couple. Oh, you were freaking out about the tea. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Why don't you go buy some? Here, I'll put the link in the chat and you can go buy some. Put your money where your mouth is.
A fan says he's 3 glasses of port and my dude's having a good time.
Oh, shoot. Is he still typing straight?
Somehow. So I've gotten more water. I'm boiling now, and I'm kind of in this moment of, you know what, I'm just going to put the lid on the pot on that last laugh, and we're just going to keep drinking the manual.
Oh, shoot. I'm going to have to call up Scott and let him know.
Please do. I will tell Scott myself.
Oh my God, are you serious? Don't drop my name. That man's a powerful man.
At the end of the day, the last laugh, it is like, I still enjoy it. It's like one of the first kind of Shou Puers that I've like gone, okay, I can get behind this.
Yeah.
But just in comparison, it's not the same at all. Drunk A-fan is pretty much the same as sober A-fan. I'm that boring. Damn.
Who is Scott? Oh man, Da Vinci, you're getting nosy over here. So Scott,
Yeah.
he wants us to spill the tea, all the tea. Scott is the owner of the brand that Colin was just talking about.
Yeah.
So we're drinking this small batch Shou Puer, and usually this style of tea is made in very large quantities in the factory. It's a factory commodity tea. Yeah. Well, I'm spilling the tea for you now, Da Vinci. Don't worry.
I kind of wish I had like a Shaguan Shou Tuo or something like that, because I've got a Shung Tuo, but that would have been kind of fun if I'd had like one of like the big tea factory.
Oh yeah. Oh, and if it was like full on fish notes, oh man, that'd be so bad. Some of those fishy ones, it's so bad. You can't even rinse that shit out. It just, ugh.
Well, the thing is that the one that turned me off to Shou originally was very fishy, and I was like, and I didn't understand. I didn't want to go to the sushi restaurant. I live in the Midwest, okay? I'm like afraid of sushi in the Midwest.
As you should be. Unless you're, Las Vegas, right? We're in the middle of the freaking nowhere here. But we have really good fish and sushi just because of the strip. There's some good supply chains bringing that stuff in. But
well, you guys are a little bit closer to the ocean than I am, too.
Yeah.
Like by a few miles at least.
Hey, Colin, listen to this. I had a reservation. Last time I went to New York City, I had a reservation to eat at this place called... I forget what it's called. But it was like the new hot restaurant that was written in all of the food magazines, and I had to go check it out. It's a sushi restaurant, and all of the ingredients that they use are all local. So they found like river fish and lake fish that they could source locally that were comparable to the different famous fish, like as far as texture or whatever. And I think that might be a cool new trend of how we're going to evolve, right? Because that's like, speaking on what we've been talking about in this podcast, is that like when other cultures or people of other cultures start to appreciate and practice other cultures, oftentimes we get into this like little misunderstanding about what is appreciation, what is theft, and da-da-da.
What is appropriation. And
yeah. And so it's like, this may be the way where we can say, okay, this is authentic. I mean, as long as the shit's not made of plastic, it's authentic as far as I'm concerned. But a lot of people attach themselves to that.
I've had some, like, at least one or two people in the past say that what I do with this is very much appropriation.
You've had what?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Did you give them a knuckle sandwich?
No, personally, and so this is actually personally, I my view on that is that's not my place to decide if it is or not.
Yeah.
But because I'm not the one that, but and on the same token, I've had people like that, grew up in Chinese families and stuff that have practiced Kung Fu Cha, like say just the opposite. Like, no, like, you're doing it right, and I that's kind of just something I don't know. It's always kind of something I'm concerned about. Like, that's why when I try something, I practice the pronunciation 27 times because I never want to get accused of that, because I just want to make tea.
And if you get it wrong, it's okay. Just listen
Yeah.
when someone corrects you. That's the
100%.
key. That's the key of it. I can't believe that someone accused you of that. Damn, Colin. Oh my God, Bitcoin. Bitcoin would never do that for you. Now, if you started to appropriate his dog culture, he'll be ready to gatekeep. That's for sure.
Well, I think part of the thing too is something that is, it kind of relates back to the gatekeeping conversation a little bit, and that, like, I talk a lot of shit on tea bags, but a lot of
should.
right, but a lot of people I know and a lot of people that watch my stream really enjoy their Earl Grey tea bags, and what I always tell people is, hang on, pouring tea. What I always tell people is that, like, you can enjoy your tea bags all you want. I've never once said that you have to stop. Just that, and this is related to the whole, like, appropriation thing. It's important to understand why the tea bags exist and why you enjoy them the way that you do. Like, if you enjoy them, that's fine, and you should continue to do so. But, like, it's very important to understand how we got here.
Yeah.
I think that's really the key about it, is making sure that you're not just forgetting. I don't know. I'm tea drunk now, maybe. Who knows?
This tea will definitely get you tea drunk, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's like Shou espresso now.
Yum. How did you steep that for a long time? Is that why that did that?
No, that's like a 30.
Coming out thick for you.
It's just coming out real thick. I got about 4 grams, about 100 milliliters. It's just coming out real thick.
It's clean. Damn. Why? Are you trolling me now? Is that what's happening? Am I getting trolled?
Oh, do you have a troll?
Yeah, well, I mean, he sent me a bit. So, I mean, is that like the anti-troll insurance that you pay when you go into a Twitch stream? It's like, here's my bit. I'm going to troll you now.
Yeah.
No, I think I know who it is.
Oh, why do we have tea? Sorry, I've got your chat open too. I shouldn't be responding to your chat.
Respond. Let the man know. Let this person know.
Oh, we have tea bags because somebody thought they were convenient one time, but also, industrialization to meet demand, right? Crushing leaves in order to be able to make more and more quickly, more easily, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it's America. America takes credit for inventing the tea bag.
I've heard like 6 stories about who invented the tea bag. I've heard British seamstresses. I've heard American, like, parachute things.
I don't know. Colleges have been existing in places like India for like centuries. So I'm assuming that balls on the forehead happened long before America was anything. Colony didn't get that one, huh?
No, was that on your... Which chat was that in? That was confusing
I just
to me.
said it.
I'm so confused.
Shall I repeat myself, Colin, just for you?
Yes,
Just
please.
for you?
Please. I was listening and I'm just like, what?
Well, chat gets to hear my profanity once more. I said there have been colleges operating in places like India for centuries. I'm pretty sure that people have been putting balls on foreheads long before America was anything.
Got it.
You still don't got it? You're not.
No.
You don't. Nope.
No. A-Fan is patting me on the head. Apparently. Am I a child?
Or wait, did you just not go to college? You went to
I
college?
went to college. I have a bachelor's degree.
Did you go to a commuter school or did you go to like a party school?
Oh, I went to the University of Missouri. It was a big state school. A big party school.
Big party school. And there was no teabagging there? You didn't see a single teabagging, or you did not participate in a single teabagging? Is this some like weird Gen Z shit I don't know about? Like
No, I just understood the joke. Have a lovely evening, everybody. It is time for me to go. I'm pissed off that you had to explain that to me.
Bitcoin's like, he still just got it. Oh my gosh. Oh man, now Da Vinci is trolling you. He called you a noob.
I am a noob.
So Reddit chat, we're getting some good ones over here. This is a little off topic to the teabagging, but I think that's very appropriate for us to move on from that very juvenile topic. When knowledge is guarded, horizons are scarce.
Cheers. I'll drink to that.
Yeah, that's like wise words. Wise words. They used to have that skit on Saturday Night Live. It was like, this is like 80s. Like, Colin, you probably weren't even born when this stuff was coming out, but...
24.
You're 24. Yeah, no, I'm talking about like prior to 24 years ago. Yeah. There was these skits. They were like little like commercial, like inner commercial little skits that they would do, and it was like Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it does actually.
I just remember that one. That's reminded me of one of those deep thoughts. I'm just like imagining like cursive print over some like, you know, sunrise beach scene. But there was that one I remember. They say that God dwells inside of you. Well, I hope he likes bean and cheese burritos, because that's what he's getting.
Damn it. Okay, here's the worst part though.
Yeah.
Like, if that's like Facebook meme quality. It's like some shit my grandma would see and go, oh.
That's why it's Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy.
Yeah,
like the
but like
freaking 80s, man.
But I'm still sitting here laughing really hard about it.
I hope he likes bean and cheese burritos. No. Okay, got another comment here. So Pepe Sevilla, he says, or she says, sorry if I misgendered you. I obviously misgendered you. I just said he or she both, so I did it. I'm in the Midwest, and the sushi is bussin'. Dude, there's so much Gen Z stuff going on tonight. Like, I don't...
I will say that I personally just don't eat fish in the Midwest unless it's like salmon. It's just personal preference.
Wait, so there's no good like lake fish or river fish?
There are.
Is
I
it
don't
the
really.
Great Lakes in that area?
Yeah. I don't know. Fish is not. Seafood isn't really my thing. Honestly, but I just haven't really had much opportunity to explore. I live in a really small town, and so, you know, not a whole lot of restaurant variety for me to be trying.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, you come to Vegas and we'll eat all the foods.
I feel like it always comes back to, Colin, you need to come to Vegas.
Come to Vegas already. We'll party hard.
Yeah.
Hey, Colin,
Well,
I think I discovered a new niche for my Twitch stream.
Sure.
And something that could turn into something really big is Dr. Mario tournaments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the verses. I know this is before your time as well, but there was this thing called the NES that was put out by Nintendo.
Elyse, my first game system was an NES.
Wait, was this like a cute thing that your mom got you from like a yard sale somewhere and was like, oh?
No, no. When I was a kid, so my dad played video games when he was younger, and he had
Okay.
an original Game Boy and an NES, and he kept all of them. And so when I was a kid and I was like old enough to like start playing video games and stuff, we started playing RBI baseball on the NES.
Yeah.
So I know what an NES is.
Well, yeah, Dr. Mario is pretty cool, and I think I'm gonna start training, and I want to host some tournaments.
That would be fun.
I think that's a cool niche, you know. The like of all the video games I've been trying to get in some games, and you know, I'm not into it, you know. But Dr. Mario, I can get into. Yeah, have you ever played that?
I have actually. It's been a long time, but I've played Dr. Mario before. I got a very upset lady.
Why? Why is she mad? She didn't get enough tea?
No, she doesn't like being picked up, and I did it anyway.
Well, come on, Colin.
Yeah, I did that to myself.
You're live. You're live for the whole freaking world to watch you, and you're just like...
I wanted to show off my cat.
You're gonna start teabagging next?
At least I gotta go. That was no. You.
Hey, you're the one coming through here saying I talk shit about tea bags. I'm like, oh, you like talking shit about tea bags?
Oh, I do talk a lot of shit about tea bags.
Oh, Da Vinci has the hardware. Oh man, so this is gonna happen. The Dr. Mario, Da Vinci. Are you gonna challenge? Are you gonna challenge me when I start up these tournaments? We'll do it. All right, Colin. I'm gonna let you go. Are you gonna continue streaming? Are you gonna play a game or something?
Yeah, I've got some Sims shell challenges that I need to work on that I think we're gonna do a little bit of. Admittedly, a friend of mine has one up, and we're turning into a giant sex dungeon because that's what you do. So
you can do that in Sims?
No, we're being very creative. But it's, as always, though, it has been a pleasure.
It is a pleasure, Colin. I look forward to next week. Oh yeah, can I plug something on your broadcast?
Yeah, 100%. Go for it. Always.
Cool. So this week I'm hosting 2 very special live events. One of them is on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, and the other one is on Friday at 12 Pacific. On Wednesday, I will be leading a guided tasting through all of the new teas that have come from India and Taiwan for the year. There's 15 teas to taste through, so it's going to be a friggin' marathon. But yeah, if you want to learn about the new teas coming out, get industry updates. I was supposed to have the farmers tune in and like be a part of it, but I just got contact from all of them that they've either lost their internet or they've had deaths in the family. So unfortunately, they're not going to join me, so it's just going to be boring on me. But on Friday, there's a really exciting presentation that's going to be headed by Shiloh Gastello. He is based in Oregon. He's a potter. He's a longtime potter that has studied pottery in China, and he is going to be giving a live presentation on the various sources of clay and their effects on tea.
Amazing.
Yes. Friday at noon Pacific on my channel right here, tealit.tv.
Perfect. And I will give you a shout out in my chat real fast, actually, as well.
Much love, Colin. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Of course. Have a lovely evening, Elyse.
You too.
And I will see you next week.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Get out of here. Oh my goodness. I can't believe that it took him so long to figure out that teabag joke. Ha, we both know it won't be much of a challenge. Well, you know, it's a good thing that we're not competing on grammar over here, Colin, or Da Vinci. Niche Twitch Dr. Mario. I gotta check out if there already is. I haven't put the time in to see who's already filling that niche. There's gotta be. Bitcoin, you were rambunctious, boy. So yeah. Today was easy going. I was stressed. I've been stressed this whole week because I was supposed to have all of these live events going on for the amazing tea race, but all the farmers had to back out. They had to back out. Reddit, what's up, y'all? What's up? What's good? You want to see my tea? Dark, huh? This style of puer, like, is the original style of tea that came out of China thousands of years ago. Usually it takes 10, 20 years of natural aging, natural fermentation, for the tea to turn this dark. Usually the tea is a lot lighter. No, that's a black tea. That won't work. It's like a green tea, actually, when it starts. But then after some time, it turns into a dark color, and it makes it really rich. Oh, I'm out of water. I can't even steep again for y'all. But yeah, it makes this rich, darker color. This is the dry leaf here. But yeah, Colin and I come on every Monday night and we record a live podcast. It's called The First Steep. Colin is relatively new to tea. I, of course, am an old tea lady. And so we figured that this would be kind of a fun podcast to do where we taste different teas, usually side by side, and learn about the terroir, learn about the processing, so that we can all gain a better intuitive knowledge around tea. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go. Let's see, is there anybody I can raid? Anybody to raid? I haven't got no games to play with y'all. I'm ready to be done streaming for the... Oh, there's some Gods Unchained somebody's playing. Go say hi to him. Or not. Or not. How much people we got here? Oh, there's 4 people. I might as well take y'all somewhere. Let's go somewhere. Let's go raid. You know what? Let's go see some Baby Yoda art. I haven't seen this girl in so long. And go catch up on her stream as well. Really nice girl. It's been a while since she's come to our stream. Crafting canvas. She is an artist that specializes in Baby Yoda art. It's really cool. Bussin'. Man. Oh, she's doing some digital art. All right, let's go get her. If y'all want to chat in, let her know you came for the tea. Oh, come on. Come on. Of all 4 of y'all, only one wants to go? That's cool. All right, let's go. Let's go raid them. All right, Reddit. I'll see y'all later. I'll be back. I'll probably stream my tasting on Wednesday to Reddit, so y'all be on the lookout. Noon. I'll hook y'all up. And tomorrow, y'all be playing some games tomorrow. So I'll see y'all tomorrow. Love you.